Above the jagged cliffs, the moon hung heavy, casting silver light over the vast, unyielding land. Taza crouched at the ridge, his gaze fixed on the distant homestead nestled in the valley below. Smoke curled lazily from its chimney, its warmth an insult to the cold vengeance simmering in his chest. He traced the hilt of his knife with steady fingers, his heart beating in measured silence. This was justice. This was blood for blood. Behind him, the night stretched into eternity, broken only by the rhythmic snort of his horse. Somewhere, an owl hooted, a warning, or perhaps a death knell. He had heard many such sounds before. They no longer unsettled him. A voice from memory echoed in his ears. No mercy. Justice is blood. His chief's words. A command he had sworn to follow. The settlers had taken his brother, his flesh and blood. And so, he would take theirs. It was the way of the world. One life balanced another. It had been decided the moment his brother's body had been found crumpled in the dirt, his throat slit like an animal's, his scalp crudely hacked away as a trophy. Taza's fingers curled into a fist, a soft shuffle behind him. He tensed, his hand flashing to the knife at his hip, but he did not need to turn. He knew the scent of her, wild sage, the embers of the fire, something sharper beneath. Nahila. She stood close, her presence a blade against his resolve. He did not move, did not acknowledge her, but her voice came low, quiet, threading through the night like a warning. You hesitate. Taza's jaw tightened. I do not. A beat of silence. She did not believe him. They are weak, she murmured. Soft. You will not find warriors waiting for you down there. Only a woman. And a child. She let the words settle, their weight heavy. He knew what she was asking. He could feel her gaze pressing against his skin, searching for something, doubt perhaps. Weakness. He gave her neither. They're the last, she continued, stepping closer. After tonight, the blood feud is answered. You will return home. Home. The word curled in his gut like smoke. He did not speak of the rest, of the shadows creeping at the edge of his thoughts, of the way his fingers twitched on the hilt of his knife, not from eagerness, but something else. Nahila must have sensed it, because she exhaled sharply, stepping back. If you fail, I will finish it for you, she said. And then, like the wind, she was gone. Taza let his breath slip out, slow and steady. Below, the homestead lay still, wrapped in the hush of sleep. He mounted his horse and rode into the dark. The house was smaller than he had expected. A single cabin, modest, its wooden walls worn by the elements. A barn stood beside it, its doors slightly ajar. A fence encircled a small patch of land, the earth tilled but struggling, as if even the land itself fought to resist the settler's claim. Taza dismounted, silent as the night. His hand went to the blade at his side. His steps left no trace as he approached the house. A flicker of movement at the window. His grip tightened. Through the glass, he saw her, the woman. She sat before the fire, golden light flickering against her pale skin. Long hair cascaded over one shoulder, loose and untamed. She was young, too young to wear sorrow so heavily. But he could see it in the set of her shoulders, the way her hands trembled over the fabric she stitched. Beside her, curled under a thin blanket, lay the child. Taza's breath was a stone in his chest. His fingers flexed around the knife's hilt. He had killed before. Warriors, men who had met his blade with steel and fury. But this was different. This was a woman who did not know death was at her door. A child who did not know the world wished to erase him. No, he had come to erase him. Justice's blood. He moved to the door, placing his hand on the wood. And then she turned. Her eyes met his through the glass. Not wide with fear, not pleading, just watching. Taza froze. The firelight caught in her gaze, turning them into molten gold, filled with something he did not expect. Not terror, not desperation, understanding. Her lips parted, and though she did not speak, the words pressed into him, weighted with something he could not name. Will killing us truly end your war? His fingers, so sure a moment before, slackened around a blade. The wind whispered through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. Taza did not move. The blade felt heavier in his grasp than it ever had before. It had taken lives, carved vengeance into the bones of men, yet now, in the dim glow of the firelight, it wavered. His grip was firm, his purpose clear, but something unseen held him still. The woman did not look away. Her eyes, steady and unreadable, did not plead. They did not flinch. They saw him, truly saw him, not as a shadow in the night, not as a warrior of death, but as a man. Taz's breath came slow, controlled, yet inside, something unraveled. The child shifted under the blanket, a soft sigh escaping his lips. A boy, small, frail in sleep, untouched by the war that had shaped Taz's entire life. A life he had come to end. A crack echoed in the distance, a branch snapping beneath a careless foot. Taza stiffened. He turned his head slightly, his instincts sharper than any blade. The night, once quiet, was no longer empty. They were here, his people. He had hesitated too long. A second snap, closer this time. Shadows flitted between the trees, silent but swift. They were watching, waiting. He could almost hear Nahila's voice in his head. Do not fail. He had no choice. Taza took a step forward past the threshold, into the warmth of the cabin. The woman did not move. He could hear the soft crackle of the fire, the faint scent of bread still lingering in the air. A home, a life he had come to destroy. The knife lifted. The woman took a breath. Not in fear, not in surrender. It was something else, acceptance. Do it, she whispered. Taza's pulse roared in his ears. Justice's blood. But as he stared at the child, the soft rise and fall of his chest, something inside him splintered. This was not justice. This was something else. His blade dropped to his side. The woman blinked. I won't, Taza said, voice barely more than breath. Outside, the wind carried the soft rustle of movement. The others would not wait. If he would not complete the task, they would. The woman must have understood, for her gaze flickered past him, her body tensing. They'll kill you, she said. Taza did not answer. He already knew. A footstep, closer this time. Taza turned, already moving. His hand found the doorframe just as the first warrior stepped into view, a dark silhouette against the trees. Nahila. Her face was carved from stone, unreadable, but her eyes burned with knowing. She had seen everything. Taza exhaled slowly, a silent farewell. Nahila's voice, sharp as a blade, sliced through the quiet. You shame us. Taza didn't move. He could feel the woman's presence behind him, feel the way she held her breath, waiting. She did not beg for his protection, did not cower. Nahila took a slow step forward, and from the shadows, others emerged. Two warriors, their hands resting on their weapons, waiting for the command. There was no choice left. Taza moved before the order could come. He reached behind him, grabbed the woman's wrist, and pulled. His body twisted as he struck, the blade slicing through the air. The wolf veered, jaws snapping inches from his throat. A blur of teeth. Claws. The ground rushed up to meet him as the impact sent them both tumbling. Taza landed hard, the wind knocking from his lungs. The wolf was on him before he could rise, snarling, its weight pressing him into the dirt. Pain. Sharp. Deep. The beast's teeth sank into his arm. Taza's vision blurred. His knife. Where was his knife? Clara's scream. Ethan's cry. Taza roared, slamming his fist into the wolf's skull. The beast staggered. Taza didn't hesitate. He rolled, grasping a broken branch from the ground. The wolf leaped again. Taza drove the wood into its throat. A wet, sickening sound. A gurgle. A final, shuddering breath. The wolf collapsed. Taza exhaled, his vision swimming. Blood seeped from his wound, warm against the night's chill. The night had turned against them. Taza knew they were coming. The stillness of the forest had changed. No wind, no rustling leaves, no distant cries of animals. The silence was thick, unnatural. A hunter's silence. He crouched by the fire, his wounded arm throbbing. The bandage Clara had wrapped around it already soaked through. Ethan slept beside him, curled against his mother's side, his small chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. He was too young to know the weight of the moment, too young to understand that the world was about to close in around them. Taza let his gaze drift to Clara. She sat awake, her fingers tight around the rifle he had given her. In the flickering firelight, he saw the exhaustion lining her face, the fear buried deep in her eyes. But there was something else now, something hardened. She had seen death, had nearly met it, and yet she was still here, still fighting. A whisper of movement in the trees. Taza's muscles coiled. They had found them. He rose, silent, his knife already in his grip. Clara tensed, but did not speak. She understood. The shadows shifted beyond the fire's glow. 3 figures emerged from the darkness, moving like ghosts. Taza recognized them instantly. Koa, the hunter, merciless, relentless. 2 others beside him, warriors Taza had once fought beside. Now they were his executioners. Koa stopped just beyond the fire's reach, his face expressionless, his spear tipped toward the ground. He studied Taza with a predator's patience, his eyes flicking briefly to Clara and the sleeping child. "You've gone soft," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. Judgment. Taza did not answer. Koa took a slow step forward. "They were nothing but names to you once. White settlers. Enemies. You were one of us." He tilted his head, the firelight catching the sharp lines of his face. "Now you protect them?" Taza's grip tightened on his blade. "The boy," Koa said, his voice colder now. "Given to us." Clara stiffened. Taza felt her fear, her anger, before she even spoke. "He's just a child." Koa barely looked at her. "He is the son of your kind. He will grow, and one day he will kill mine." Taza exhaled slow, steady. The fire crackled between them, an unspoken line drawn in the dirt. "No," he said. Koa's eyes darkened. "Then you die with them." The night erupted. Koa lunged, his spear flashing toward Taza's ribs. Taza dodged, barely, the tip grazing his skin. His knife slashed in return, tearing across Koa's forearm. A hiss of pain, but Koa didn't slow. The other 2 warriors closed in. Taza moved fast, instinct guiding him. He sidestepped the blade, countered with a brutal strike to the ribs. The warrior staggered, but the second was already coming, his tomahawk raised. A gunshot shattered the night. The warrior fell back, clutching his leg. Taza turned, shocked. Clara stood firm, rifle in hand, her shoulders squared. Smoke curled from the barrel. Koa's eyes flickered with surprise, but he didn't hesitate. He lunged again, faster this time. Taza met him midair. They hit the ground hard, rolling over dirt and stone. Fists, elbows, knees, every movement was a strike, every breath a battle. Koa's hand found his knife. Taza barely caught his wrist in time. The blade hovered inches from his throat, the weight of his old brother pressing down on him. "You should have died with him," Koa snarled. Taza roared and wrenched the knife aside, driving his fist into Koa's face. Bone cracked. Blood splattered the dirt. But Koa didn't stop. He never stopped. A hand closed around Taza's throat. His vision darkened. His grip loosened. A second gunshot. Koa jerked, his body seizing. Taza gasped for air as the weight lifted. Koa staggered, blinking in shock. A bloom of red spread across his chest. He turned, unsteady. Clara stood before him, the rifle still raised. Her hands trembled, but her eyes did not waver. Koa fell to his knees. He exhaled once, ragged. His gaze locked onto Taza's, something unreadable passing between them. Then he crumpled. Silence. Taza pushed himself up, his breath unsteady. He looked at Clara, at the rifle slipping from her grip, at the way her body shook. Ethan whimpered behind her, his small hands gripping the blanket. He did not understand, but he knew. Taza swallowed hard. The other warrior was gone. The one Clara had shot earlier had crawled into the darkness, vanishing into the wild. Taza knew what that meant. They would come again, and next time they would not come in small numbers. Clara bent down, picking Ethan up in her arms. He buried his face against her shoulder, and for the first time since this began, she wept. Not loud, not uncontrolled, just quiet, aching sobs against her son's hair. Taza let her. He looked at Koa's body, at the man he had once called a brother, now lying lifeless in the dirt. There was no going back. His people would not forgive him. But maybe, just maybe, there was another path forward. He turned back to Clara, to Ethan, to the only thing left in this world that was not lost to war. "We leave at dawn," he said. Clara wiped her tears, her breath shuddering. She nodded. The three of them disappeared into the night, leaving behind the ghosts of their past. She gasped as he propelled her forward, past him, out the door. Her bare feet stumbled against the cold earth, but she did not resist. The child, Ethan, was still inside. Taza spun, snatching the small boy into his arms as he tore through the open door. Nahila's voice rang out behind him, sharp with fury. "Stop him!" The warriors lunged. Taza ducked, twisting, knocking one to the ground with a brutal strike to the ribs. The other reached for his knife, but Taza was faster. His fist met the warrior's jaw, sending him staggering back. He didn't wait. Gripping Ethan close, he bolted. The woman was already running, her breath ragged in the cold night air. Taza caught up, pushing her forward, urging speed. Behind them, the camp erupted into chaos. A sharp whistle, a signal. More would come. They sprinted toward the tree-line, toward the only chance they had. The woman's breath came in gasps, her pace uneven, but she did not falter. The trees swallowed them whole. Branches clawed at their skin, the forest a maze of shadows and twisted roots. Taza ran as though his life depended on it, because it did. The boy clung to him, silent, small fingers digging into his chest. A shout echoed behind them. They were following. The woman stumbled. Taza caught her arm before she could fall. She looked up at him, eyes wide. For the first time, he saw fear in them. Not for herself, but for the child. Taza's grip tightened. "I won't let them take him," he said. She stared at him, searching for something. Then she nodded. A sound ripped through the night. A war cry, sharp and deadly. Taza cursed under his breath. They weren't running fast enough. Ahead, the forest grew denser, the underbrush thicker. They wouldn't be able to outrun the warriors. Not like this. Taza made a choice. He grabbed the woman's hand and pulled her off the path, deeper into the shadows. She followed without question. They crouched behind the thick trunk of a fallen tree, breath shallow, hearts hammering. The warriors were close now, their footfalls swift, searching. Taza's hand tightened around his knife. If they were found, he would have no choice. The woman clutched the child to her chest. Ethan whimpered softly, his small body trembling against her. Taza reached out, placing a hand over the boy's mouth, not unkindly, but firm. Ethan stilled. The warriors passed mere feet from them, their dark figures moving like ghosts through the trees. Taza did not breathe. One of them stopped, turned. Taza's fingers curled around the hilt of his knife. A pause. Then, another shout in the distance. The warriors moved, drawn to the sound. And then they were gone. Silence wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. The woman exhaled, shaking. Ethan buried his face against her shoulder. Taza released the knife. For the first time since this night began, he realized something. There was no going back. The forest stretched endlessly before them, a dark and whispering maze. The wind carried the distant echoes of pursuit, voices slicing through the silence like blades. Taza knew they were not safe. Not yet. He motioned for the woman to move, his grip firm on her wrist as he pulled her deeper into the wild. She followed without question, clutching the child close to her chest. The boy made no sound, his small body trembling from the cold, or perhaps from fear. Taza's mind worked quickly. They needed distance, needed cover, needed time. Above, the sky stretched black and endless, the stars veiled by thick clouds. The air was sharp with the scent of pine, damp earth, and the lingering metallic sting of his own sweat. His ears strained for movement beyond their own. His people would not stop hunting him. He had betrayed them. A warrior who turned his back on his own blood was no longer a warrior. He was prey. The woman stumbled over a root, her breath sharp. He caught her before she fell, steadying her, his hands rough against her bare skin. She flinched, but did not pull away. "How much farther?" she whispered. Taza did not answer. There was no safe distance. Only the next moment, The next step, the next breath. He studied the trees ahead, searching for the signs he needed. A place to rest, a place to disappear, a trickle of water. There, he guided them toward the sound, moving with the instinct of a hunter. Soon, they reached a narrow creek, its dark water rushing softly over smooth stones. Taza crouched, dipping his fingers into the cold stream. He drank quickly, then gestured for her to do the same. She hesitated before kneeling beside him. The child whimpered as she tried to coax him into drinking. His small lips were cracked, his face pale. He would not last long in the cold. Taza reached into the pouch at his waist, pulling out a small bundle of dried meat. He tore off a piece, offering it to her. She hesitated, then took it. Her fingers brushed his, rough against smooth. She fed the boy first, her movements careful, maternal. "You saved us," she said softly. Taza said nothing. Her gaze held him, searching. Why? He looked away. He did not have an answer. She exhaled, shifting closer to the fireless shelter of the trees. "My name is Clara," she murmured. Taza remained silent. Names were dangerous. Names meant ties, meant something to lose. He glanced at the boy, who now studied him with cautious curiosity. Blue eyes, wide and unblinking. "What's your name?" the child asked. Taza stared at him. A name. It had been spoken with pride once by the lips of his people. Now it was a brand. A name belonged to someone with a home. A name belonged to a man who had not cast his past into fire. Still, the child waited. Finally, Taza said, "Taza." The boy repeated it, softly, as if testing the shape of it on his tongue. A noise. Taza's body tensed, hand moving to his knife. He rose, scanning the darkened woods. Nothing, but something was out there. A shift in the air, a weight in the silence. "We need to move," he said. Clara pushed herself up, though exhaustion hung heavy in her frame. She swayed slightly but steadied herself. Taza reached for the boy. Clara stiffened, but after a moment's hesitation, she allowed it. Ethan curled into him, small and warm. A strange feeling crept into Taza's chest, something unfamiliar, something dangerous. He ignored it. They walked for what felt like hours, weaving through the thick underbrush. Clara's breathing grew heavier, her steps slower. Taza glanced back. She was weakening. He stopped. She nearly collapsed into him, catching herself against a tree. "You can't stop," Taza said. She swallowed. "I just need—" A crack in the darkness. Taza's blade was in his hand before the sound had fully formed. Clara froze. Her breathing hitched. Another crack. Not a footstep. A growl. Low. Deep. Not human. Taza's heart slowed, steady measured. He scanned the shadows, his body coiled, ready. Then the beast emerged. It moved between the trees, its form hulking, powerful. Yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness, fixed on them. Its muscles rippled beneath a thick coat, its breath fogging the cold air. A wolf. No, a dire wolf. Larger than any he had ever seen. Taza shifted his weight, positioning himself between the beast and Clara. The wolf's nostrils flared, scenting them. It was hungry. Taza tightened his grip on his knife. The wolf lunged. Taza moved.